Welcome to Liu in Order, Episode 3, Wednesday, July 29th, 2020, out of Los Angeles, California. I'm here with attorneys Z Liu and Abraham Odabachian to discuss the Congressional Judiciary Subcommittee on Antitrust Law. And today, the U.S. Congress is sitting with and, frankly, grilling executives from Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and Google. And today we have the opportunity to sit with two attorneys who have experience in the antitrust industry. Attorney Liu was taught antitrust law from Thomas Peppergeorge, who was the lead prosecutor against Microsoft when they were dealing with all of their antitrust issues in the early 2000s. And Abe was taught by Ahmed Taha, who was an antitrust attorney out of the U.S. Department of Justice. So today we're discussing what's going on in this congressional committee, why are we having it, and what concerns the U.S. government has with companies like Facebook and Google and Amazon. So, David, this first question. So what's the point of today's hearing, and what do you think is going on?
Well, today's hearing is about finding out any potential or confirming any potential antitrust violations with these big companies, actually the four biggest, namely Facebook, Amazon, Google, and there's one more. Apple.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I guess I haven't had any Apple lately, so that's why it slipped my mind. So I should eat more apples. So what happened was that the hearing is pretty contentious. There's people in the Congress. By the way, it's a non-bipartisan hearing. Mm-hmm. And they ask very good and very straightforward questions. And but surprisingly, that the answers are not nearly as good. And some of the answers are pretty clear. In a sense that these people, the CEOs of these four big companies, Apple, Google, Amazon, and Facebook, they were dodging the questions. Mm-hmm. Especially the CEO, the Indian guy of Google, was asked the question, why Google bailed out on a $10 billion contract with the Department of Defense, and then later decided to work with Chinese companies. And also there was suspicion that these Chinese companies actually were part of Chinese government. Mm-hmm. The Chinese companies, they were controlled by Chinese government. Well, his answers actually were very weak, in a sense that he kept on saying that he doesn't know the details, and he was not only that. Not only he wasn't answering these questions, he was trying to dodge the questions by saying stuff like, Google has always committed to the security, privacy, and equality of people's lives. It's a bunch of gibberish. See, actually, I before the hearing, I had a lot of respect for this guy. Particularly, he is an Indian person from India. He became the CEO of the largest company, mm-hmm. if not like Google, he became the CEO as a foreign person of the one of the largest companies, Google. And I think that either he was extremely intelligent, mm-hmm. In answering these questions, or he was extremely bold, in a sense that he could have said, yes, I decided not to work with U.S. government, but I decided to work with the Chinese government because I like Chinese government. What's wrong with that? Mm-hmm. What law did I break? He could have been a man and admitted it, but instead of admitting to the facts, actually he was dodging questions. I was a bit surprised. The second thing I want to emphasize is that the idea of capitalism is free competition. So basically, if a market or an industry is dominated or monopolized by one person or one company, one business, such as Facebook, Amazon, Google, Apple. So actually, it eliminates or minimizes free competition, which is the very essence of capitalism, free competition. So that's why I think today's hearing is very important, not just to the U.S. as a country, but also to each and every single individual, that lives in the States. But unless, of course, you are a hobo from downtown Los Angeles, it's a different story. So I guess most people are not. So that's why it's important you pay attention to not necessarily the hearing because it's very long and boring, but to this video, which we are translating for you guys. Now I'm gonna turn it over to the most famous Armenian, not just in Chinese community, but in the States, period, to address some of the concerns.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
So, the main issue in this hearing is antitrust. Now, a lot of us, we hear about it, living here in the United States, but we're not so familiar with what this term is and what it stands for. To put it briefly, here in the United States, there are 3 acts that govern these competition laws, if I can call it that, and that is made to protect the consumer. And these 3 acts are the Ben Sherman Act, the Federal Trade Commission Act, and the Clayton Antitrust Act. And what they're there to do is to make sure these companies like Apple, like Google, like Amazon, like Facebook don't end up controlling the entire marketplace. Like Mr. Liu was saying, the American capitalist system works on a laissez-faire basis, as in a let it be. However, we have laws that protect the consumers. And they protect the consumers because when these companies start getting too big, consumers start losing their freedom in the market. There is no more competition because these companies are way too big and will not allow any type of competition. Thus, they will control the force. They will control the price. They will control what you see. They will control what you hear, what you eat, everything, because they're the only controlling force. So these laws enacted by Congress are there to make sure that these companies don't pass that line. Now, today's hearing, in the beginning, was mostly about the CEOs, the CEO of these companies, telling Congress that we have a lot of competition from here in the United States and in China, and we're not as big as you guys may think we are, although most of them are past $1 trillion market cap here in the United States, except Facebook, I believe. I believe all of them have passed the $1 trillion market cap, but they're still not that big. Amazon Jeff Bezos starts off with his humble past, having his dad come from Cuba during the revolution, his mom was pregnant in high school during difficult times, and then he started this business out of his garage, and it's an American dream. Now it's a $1 trillion business. His worth $180 billion. But he still faces strong competition from Walmart, from Target, and others. And the same similar story could be said for the other companies as well. And the reason for this is these executives are trying to show Congress that we're not that big. We have a lot of competition. We're not a threat to the American consumer. So there is no need to investigate us further to break us up. Therefore, that is the purpose of today's hearing. It is to protect the consumer, to look into the details of what's going on, whether these companies are controlling what the American consumer is seeing, what they're hearing, what they're understanding when they go on their social media accounts, or if they're following them up on what they're purchasing as far as foods, beverages, and other things as well, which involves privacy as well. So that was the purpose of today's hearing, which is very important.
So, in essence, Jeff Bezos, he achieved his American dream. He actually has become not the richest person in the States, but the richest person in the entire world. He has become the richest person, period. But obviously, his American dream was achieved, was realized. But in the process of achieving his American dream, he actually shattered many other people's American dreams. He turned their American dreams nightmares. So, in addition to what Amazon, what Jeff Bezos has done, and Google, Facebook, and Apple, they have done pretty much the same thing, just to different extents. So they're trying to control the market because that's where you can maximize the profits. So that's why it's time to say no. No means no. It's time to stop it. We can stop it because united we stand.